Hello, welcome to another episode of the 425 podcast. Thank you so much for joining me again here today as we go over some topics today that are really near and dear to my heart. And I think that they're topics that our podcast is uniquely built to talk about. I'm really excited about sharing my perspective in it. So today's episode is going to be a little different from the first few that we did. I want to do a quick shout out as we get started today. We're always talking about the last few episodes. We've talked a lot about the parallel economy and about making a change in your local area. And those changes can be from as listening to this podcast, subscribing, liking this podcast, other podcasts like it, just to make a difference and let your voice be heard. Well, today I want to give a shout out to a local company. It's a company that I've been privileged to be a part of ever since its inception. And I think it's something that's near and dear to my heart, and it is. And you probably noticed the mug on the desk. It's always on here. It's Okana Coffee. It's a local coffee company here to where I'm at. And there are people that are like-minded individuals, and there are people that were anxious for a change in how we do things and how things are done, and supporting companies that realistically don't support our morals, don't support our anything about us, and companies that really would love to see us not be around anymore, but yet every day we go out and we buy a cup of coffee from them, and every day we go out and we support them with whatever we want just because of convenience. And I understand, because I'm guilty of it as well. But sometimes maybe if we can just put aside convenience and let our voice and our dollar go somewhere, I think we can inspire a change without really even trying. And I think you'll notice that realistically, talking about as much as I've talked about Elon Musk and DOGE, and making these changes can actually probably be a positive impact to your finances as well. So I just encourage everybody, if you like anything of what I've said, and if you subscribe, if you consider this might be a podcast that you want to continue to listen to and continue to be a part of from the ground up, check out okanacoffee.com and just order some coffee. Help them out. Help them. It's not like a paid sponsorship or nothing like that. It's just people that have been around with me for a while, and I think that it's our duty to support companies like that, get them off the ground, and make sure that they know that they are supported in trying to make a change. So getting into today, we're going to talk about some different things today. So today's topics are going to be more on the faith side of things. See, I like talking politics because I think it's so important that we're all well informed. It's so important that we all understand what's going on. And I know that our day-to-day life, sometimes we don't notice things. So I like to come on here and I like to talk about those politically inspired things of what's going on with our country behind the scenes that maybe unfortunately the mainstream media has felt the need to leave us in the dark. The mainstream media has decided to be kind of sold to the highest bidder, or to a different type of idea that maybe doesn't represent the American people anymore. And I think at that point, it's why it's so important to kind of speak our minds and let everybody know that, hey, you're not alone if you have these thoughts. This is actually, our country was founded on a lot of these thoughts. So today we're going to talk heavily more about faith. I still have to go into a couple things about DOGE because I can't help but be excited to see the transparency that's happening. But we're going to start off with something that I think is so important, and it's that Trump has officially installed the White House Faith Office and put Paula White-Cain in charge of that office. Now, why is this important? Well, first of all, Paula White-Cain, she's come under flack in the past, and I understand. A lot of mega church pastors and televangelists, they get a bad rep because there are some that just aren't in it for the right reasons. I don't think that's the case here. If you research her, she's somebody that's on fire for God. Her faith is something that she's very, very proud of, something that she's been in support of different kinds of faith movements in the past. And so I think that that's the right person. She was involved in his last presidency as well, more behind the scenes, not quite as upfront as she is on this one. Some of the people that have been placed here to support her also supported her during when he was president last time. So although she's a mega church pastor, well, yeah, okay, there's bad things about that, and I understand that they get a bad rep. But here's the thing: she's used to being in a position where she has a lot of people looking at her, and she knows how to take that pressure. So it's somebody that can handle it without having an issue. She's unapologetic and unashamed of her faith. But here's the thing: whenever we talk about it, some people can get a little bit nervous and they're like, well, there's a separation of church and state. Are we going to start infringing on our rights with the faith? It's the faith office. It's not the Christian office necessarily. Her job is to ensure that although her faith is important, I think she understands the importance of having a freedom of religion in this country. And I think she understands that by and large, that's probably one of the most important things. Like, to me, absolutely, the freedom of religion is one of the things I hold near and dear, because if my country tells me that I can't share my faith, and then I unfortunately, either one, I'm going to get persecuted for it. I'm not going to change my faith. I follow a God that I know. Sometimes the enemy works in our world, and you have to get persecuted for what you believe in, but that doesn't mean I'm going to change my faith. If anything, it'll mean I have to maybe change my country, and that would kill me, because I'm proud to be an American, and I love this country and everything that we stand for. So as far as us being a beacon of hope to religious freedom worldwide, I think this is something that cements that, in the fact that now there's an office looking out for persecution of different faiths. Why is this important? Well, see, a lot of times that if you're in a faithful community, you think, well, we don't need that because we live in America and there's freedom. I want everybody to review the last 4 years. And a lot of stories that got swept under the rug, but our faith was persecuted. There's people that we talked about in episode 1 and 2 that they were persecuted for singing outside of an abortion clinic, because that's their faith and that's our God-given right to step there. Whenever these people were doing that, they weren't doing it in a method to persecute the people going into those clinics. No, nor did they block the entrances. Most of those cases that they activated the free access to clinic entrances and stuff, a lot of that was persecution, because a lot of them weren't actually blocking the door. They weren't blockading the door, even though, in other movements across our country, they've blocked highways recently with immigration stuff. They literally shut down highways in California and in New York and all that, but nothing there. But whenever somebody who identifies obviously as the faith of Christianity stands near, not blocking, but near the door of a clinic and sings praise and worship songs, well, they got to go to jail. Well, if that's not persecution, then I'm really curious how you would classify that. To me, that's definitely persecution, because the only difference between those two instances, see, if you shut down a highway and there's an ambulance in the highway, do you not think that their access to clinic and hospitals are going to be, seriously deteriorated because you're blocking a highway? Yet that one didn't matter. But you sing around the door, now that's an issue. Why? Because the faith movement was persecuted in the last administration. Not the immigration, not anything like that. Black Lives Matter, nothing like that. No, that's all good. But if you do it in the name of God or in the name of a faith, and now it's an issue, now you got to go serve time. They were trying to purposely make an example that if you have a particular faith, or if you want to share your faith to other people, you're going to be persecuted. And the American government had its hand in what it was doing in doing that. Well, this office is kind of it's put into place to make sure that these kind of things don't happen again. See, over the last administration, certain rights were not only kind of sort of pushed aside, some of them were straight up trampled on. And this office is to make sure that doesn't happen again. See, I'm for my particular faith, which I shared on who we are on the episode that we did. If you haven't seen it, go back and check it out. Kind of go into who we are, why we do what we do, what 425 even stands for. Which if you haven't seen it, Spark Notes version it's a Bible verse very near and dear to my heart. And so whenever we talk about these kind of things, I don't want just freedom from my particular faith. In this country, I want freedoms for all the faiths. That's the truth. Now, if you're going to cause harm to somebody, or if you're going to cause harm to our country, obviously there's no place for that here. But if you just want to go and worship your God, go for it. I worship mine. I don't want anybody interfering with that. And likewise, I respect yours. My Bible actually tells me to respect those. Like, I am to carry God's word and spread it around as much as I can, but not in the realm of being rude, or not in the realm of being harmful. I truthfully believe that my God is the only true way to kind of have a healthy standing in this life. And also, to be honest, it is my guide that I think that's how we get to heaven. And I think I worship a God who that's how I get there, because alone I'm not worthy of it, nor will I ever be worthy, nor anything I do on this planet is going to make me worthy, because none of it's going to cleanse it of the sin that we have. If you talk to the first person of my faith that tells me that they're sinless, obviously you need to have a meeting with God, because that's non-existent. There was only one, and he was put to death on the cross for us. So this office to me is so important, because it ensures that, at least for the time being, my faith is safe. I can share it without having to worry about persecution. My kids can go and share their faith. They can talk to their friends about God without having to worry about the government stepping in and trying to control what they do. And all those things are really, really good. It begs the question, why does the left have such a problem with this? I mean, they're allowed to share their faith. Why? Well, my particular opinion on it is that the left doesn't necessarily have an issue with the faith itself. They have an issue with diminished power. And I think that even putting your faith in God makes certain people in government think that they're going to lose power because you're going to respect something greater than them. And a lot of them, they're in those positions because they want to feel mighty. They want to feel like they have control over your life. They want to feel like they have control over your finances. During COVID, they wanted to have control over what you put in your body, whether it's a needle or whatever. They want to have control over how you treat that. So ivermectin is the worst thing because Trump said they want to have control over the cure, the supposed cure, which we're going to talk a little bit about. But also they want to have control about everything else in your life, your finances. Where does your tax money go? Your community, your faith, where can you share your faith? Where can you not share your faith? What can a church do? What can a church not do? I think that's truthfully the core of anybody in politics who has an issue with something like the faith office. I think it's because maybe, their particular faith knows that this is going to embolden Christians and all that because the main person in charge is that, so we don't have to walk in fear. But nor should anybody else to share their faith. And so I don't think that's really the cause. I think the cause is that they're just in absolute fear that the American people will stand up for themselves like we've shown that we can. We make our voices heard by supporting a parallel economy, by going out to vote and making it too big to rig, as I heard during those times. And I think that they know that it's just another thing that we're putting in place that keeps them from having ultimate power. And I don't think that that's ever going to go over well, to be honest. Those people, they're high on power and they don't want to give it up. I also wanted to talk about something else, and this is kind of shifting gears from the faith talk that we were just talking about and about the faith office. And it's that today on a normal episode, I want to give you the updates and I want to give you the headlines, but I'm not as passionate as I am about these today, because today we're talking about the faith office, which was huge for me. The next one is that state attorney generals are going after different ways to maybe go after Dr. Fauci. And I say, well, why? That's kind of dead and gone, and Biden pardoned him and all that kind of stuff. And I understand. But see, here's the thing. In my opinion, right is right and wrong is wrong. And people have to be held accountable for what they did. And it's the only true way to set a precedent that maybe in the future we don't ever return to doing something that was done during the last administration. See, people don't necessarily, I'm not encouraging bullying, but you know what? I kind of want our politicians to walk in a little bit of fear, in the sense of not of danger or being hurt, because that's not what the American way is about. But I want them to walk in fear of their election. I want them to say, hey, if I do something that's not in agreement with the people that I've been elected to represent, you know what? They're going to take this job from me. And that's the power that we hold with our elections. So Dr. Fauci obviously had a lot of things that I would personally say were done horribly. There's certain AGs that are going after him, saying that, which we already know is true. Okay, so none of this is hearsay. That evidence from it being a lab leak that he hid purposely. He hid the fact that he knew it was a lab leak out of the Wuhan lab, but yet he lied directly to the American people and what the cause was. Why did he do that? Well, then if you keep on digging, you see that it's because Fauci actually misled and directed funds to the Wuhan laboratories for gain-of-function research. That was a straight-up lie. He hid money. He allocated funds that he wasn't supposed to allocate to them. He mismanaged tax money to funnel it to Wuhan. There it comes back to that tax money again. I hate that that's become such a prevalent part of our podcast, but guys, our money is being used to fund these things worldwide. We should be passionate about the fact that if we can't speak, if they're shutting up our mouths to speak, okay, and they're not letting our voices go, at least our dollar should count for something. And if you go to work like I do every single day, and you work a 9 to 5, and you're tired at the end of the day, but you do it to support your family, you should know, if you're proud of supporting your family, you should know that you could be proud of the rest of that money that was taken out of your paycheck to support something that you agree with in this country. Supporting a Wuhan laboratory for gain-of-function technology and research, absolutely, that's not me. So then why is my tax money being used there? And furthermore, I'm not even entitled to know. See, this goes to back to that power trip. Dr. Fauci was on a power trip that he knows best. He knows how to use our money better than we do. And he doesn't need to tell anybody, so he can hide and he can lie and he can cheat. And then persecute the medical community that wants to step up and say, wait, this isn't right. Well, those doctors are discredited. Some of them, even licenses have been threatened. People that were just doing their job like they should have been, but because they didn't drink the Kool-Aid of Dr. Fauci and they didn't believe it blindly, they have their own opinion because they're medical professionals that weren't bought out. Well, now they have to lose their job or lose their standing or be discredited. And that affects everybody, because what about if your favorite doctor was now discredited? You're hearing one thing from mainstream media, you're hearing another thing from Dr. Fauci, and then you go to your local doctor who you love and respect and you're hearing a third option. Who do you believe? See, I think the devil is in confusion. He creates the confusion because it's so good for him to get everybody real good confused so that way we can't unify. Again, house divided cannot stand. So if we're funding these kind of things, now, how do I know for a fact that there was things that were illegal done? How do I know why would he need a pardon if he can stand up and represent everything he did legally? Why would he need a pardon? You only need a pardon whenever you know you did something wrong. Had he only done one thing that he's like, well, okay, I overstepped, this was questionable, and then he would have been pardoned for that one thing. Whenever you issue a blanket immunity, it's because there's so much that you're just scared to list. That you say, hey, look, anything I did during this time, just forgive me for it, and let's move on. Well, you know what? Certain states are saying, no, doesn't quite work that way. On another note, it's something that I find interesting that I've heard in some of the people I listen to. If he has been given blanket immunity, then he has no right to plead the fifth, because nothing that he says can be held against him because he has blanket immunity. So I'd say if those states want to go after him, cool. But you know what? How about the federal government step up and put him on the stand? He has no right to the fifth because nothing he says can be held against him. He can't incriminate himself because he's immune to anything that they find. Okay, so maybe we won't get the head of the snake because that's him. How about we get the body of the snake then? I'll settle for that. Let's settle for everybody that had their hand in the cookie jar. Let's find all of them and let's make an example that you can't rob the American people. You can't lie to the American people. You can't force the American people to get vaccinations that they don't agree with or that they don't even know what's in it. And to a certain point, yes, shame on us for not doing our research and for believing the American government. They've never been doctors, nor will they ever be honestly doctors. So realistically, I feel like all of us should have gone to our local doctor and asked them. But unfortunately, were they peer pressured into it because of huge government and breathing down their neck, telling them you better not say anything different if you want to keep that license? So I don't know. I'm kind of at odds with this one. I want the states to continue, absolutely, because at least they're making movements in what I feel is the right direction. But I do want the federal government to stand up and say, hey, that immunity, let's put that to the test. Get on the stand. Let's find out everything that you knew. Say it, because we can't punish you. That's fine. But we can get everybody else involved and make it that maybe next time that the White House isn't occupied by an administration that I feel is like-minded to my own, at least they know, hey, we better step lightly, because if not, we're going to have an issue afterwards. So exciting news in that, seeing some movement. I'll definitely keep on following up with that and keeping you guys informed of what's going on with Dr. Fauci, what's going on with all those people involved in that whole cover up, in my opinion, and what's going on with that. The next topic I want to get into was DOGE, and I love the fact that the left is literally melting down about accountability. That sounds like a child, right? Like a kid will get mad because, what do you mean I have to clean my room? And they have a meltdown because you're making them clean their room. Well, the left in a lot of ways is acting like that tantrum. About what do you mean I have to be responsible for where I allocated funds? What do you mean I have to represent the people that I wanted to give this money to? What do you mean the American people demand explanations? No, I don't. I know more than them. Why are we even having this conversation? They're literally having meltdowns and tantrums because the American people are tired of seeing our tax money go somewhere else. And Donald Trump put somebody in charge who realistically has no need to do any of this stuff. He's only doing it because he sees the need. See, politics is shifting during this administration. The people that are in it aren't in it because of financial gain. They're not in it because of power. They're in it because they truthfully, in my opinion, want to make a change. Donald Trump could have retired without ever seeking the White House again, been comfortable, and have avoided so many headaches, but he's not. Why? Because he's an American, and that American fighting spirit is alive and well in him. And no matter how many assassination attempts or stupid lawsuits or anything that they threatened him with, he pushed through because he knew that God wanted him at the helm of this because we needed somebody like that. And then he surrounded himself with people that are doing what they're doing because they truthfully have the American people's best interest at heart. There's no other organization inside the government that's more true and more impactful than DOGE. Elon Musk and the people that he's put around him, which he has entitled, and other people entitled the nerds around him, which I think is so cool because he's not even trying to act like the cool guy. He's like, hey, look, I'm here to do a job and we're going to get this done. Well, I homeschool my kids. So some people say, well, your voice shouldn't matter then. Why are my kids homeschooled? Because I thought the education system in America was broken. We devote so much money on a per pupil instance, yet we have some of the worst education ratings in the world. Why? Because we're so focused on other things in the schools, on indoctrination and on things like that education falls to the side. That's not their primary focus. Math, science, English, literacy. No. None of that matters. It's about indoctrinating people and then making sure that those kids that we indoctrinate in elementary school, they go through middle and high, then we send them to a university, which is graduating from an indoctrination camp. And very few and far between are the American core values. See, a lot of these organizations they teach these kids to hate the country that they're raised in because of this or that. And they manipulate facts and they start at such a young age to be able to incorporate that into their thought process. And that is a complete disrespect of the American people and the American way of life. It's separation of families because parents and kids are on different ideologues because of what one was indoctrinated with that the other one wasn't. You're separating families. You're separating people from their faith based on some bias that you have that's not even based in facts. So DOGE's win this week that I want to talk about because he's had so many wins, but I'm trying to break it down because if not, we'll be here for 4.5 hours just talking about DOGE. And I know you got places to be, so I want to kind of keep it short. They terminated $881 million from the Department of Education contracts. Okay, now you say, well, the Department of Education, again, those are the schools, those are this. Okay, well, if you feel that way, just so you know, maybe make you feel a little bit better. I'm not going to get into all of them. I strongly recommend you go do your research and you go figure out. But I want to talk about one in specific here is 29 DEI grants worth $101 million. It's your money, America. Your money. They didn't produce this money. No. Your money. So $101 million that you maybe thought you were given to the government to educate your kids on math, science, reading, so that maybe our literacy rates and that we can start to kind of incrementally go up. No, $100 million for DEI. $100 million to teach our children that no matter how good you are, because of your race, because of your ethnic background, because of whatever other your sexual orientation, which don't even get me started on the fact that we're even having a conversation about sex whenever they're in elementary school or middle school. And I have kids in those ages right now. And if some adult wants to go talk to them about sex, they're going to have a very, very big problem on their hands because I don't tend to like that too much. That conversation is between whenever they're ready for it and they come to me and we can sit down and have a conversation about what's safe and what's not safe. But for some other adult to take them into a classroom in a private setting and tell them about different trans activists or story time that I've seen with trans and all that kind of stuff, no, absolutely not. That is not okay with me. That'll never be okay with me. I want no part of it. And because of my faith, quite frankly, I don't want $1 of mine to go to support any of that because I don't believe in it. So $101 million of your money has disappeared for contracts. Well, thank God he's bringing it back with DOGE, but that would have been gone to teach kids that because of their race or their ethnicity, either you may not get anywhere because you didn't meet the quota, or hey, you don't need to do your best because you're going to qualify for this or that. You know what? I'm Hispanic. I want my kids, whatever happens or whatever they earn, I want them to earn it. I want them to work hard so that way I can stand proud as a father and say, my kid is this because he worked hard, because he did his best, because he was the best person for the job. It would be the biggest disrespect to me that my kid, after working his whole entire life, somebody says, well, he only got the job because he's Hispanic. What? No, he got the job because there's nobody on this planet that can do it better than him. And whenever they find it, he may be out of the job if they find somebody that can do it better than him. But at this point, he's going to do that job. He's going to do it to the best of his ability. And as a father, I'm going to support him. So I think it's mighty funny now that that's happening, people have a problem with it. Who has a problem with it? Oh, well, you know what? I would venture a guess that probably DEI hires in our government, people that shouldn't have the position that they have, but they're put there, even though they're inadequately equipped to do it, they probably have the biggest problem for that. I would urge you to research again, like I have in every show, where your tax dollars are going and what DOGE is finding, because it should enrage us, not in the form of physical or nothing like that, but in the form of we're going to speak our mind, our voices are going to be heard, and our country is our country, and we're going to make sure it stays that way. Now, there has been some blocking. The judge blocked the Treasury Department from him going into the Treasury Department and trying to find things there, which Lord knows that there's going to be a lot in that department, possibly even more than the Education Department and all that stuff. I'm talking to some people and they're like, well, why do you think that's a good thing? I think it's good. I think it's good whenever the left is so flagrantly opposed to things, because one, it shows us where the corruption is, to be honest with you, whenever they stand up and do this. But it's also good because the American people are starting to see the truth, not because of anything other than what they're showing us. If they have such an issue with somebody coming in and just checking their books like you or I have to do in our household to make sure that financially we're stable, that our bills are paid, that our rent and our mortgage, that our electrical paid, that our super high grocery bill after the last administration is we have the money for that. If we have to do that in our own house, and then why doesn't the government have to do it? You know what? Every time somebody blocks something from being looked at, I encourage you to strongly research that area, because more than likely that's an area that has a lot of corruption in it. And there's people in power, like I said, that they're power hungry and they don't want that to be found. Their private little pet projects that your dollar has been funding is at risk of being eliminated. So you know what? That being said, Treasury Department, I think they're going to get through the block. I'm not too worried about it. But by them blocking it, at least at first, it lets me know that's an area that they don't really want us looking. And there's probably a good reason for that. Brings me to my last section. And this is one that all of this culminated to me to one. And what's our faithful reaction to Donald Trump's administration so far? Why is it so important for us to support Donald Trump? And people get into this whole like, oh, well, Donald Trump is God. And no, he's a man, just like you, just like me, whatever. And, but he's doing things that are in line with what my faith dictates is a man who's to be respected and a man who is properly appointed to do a job that has been ordained, if you would, to do a specific job. I'm not going to go to worship the Trump of God, the Church of Trump. No, I'm not doing that. I'm worshiping my God, but I think my God has ordained him at a time like this because he knew that we were at a precipice, that our country needed somebody like this. So I want to leave you guys today with the last thoughts on it. And I am going to go to the word because I think every time you mention faith, it's so important to document it, like to back it up with the word. And I want to talk about 2 Corinthians 8:21. It says, for we are taking pains to do what is right, not only in the eyes of the Lord, but also in the eyes of man. Why is that important? I think that Elon Musk and Donald Trump have to read this on the daily because of all the hate that they're getting. They have to constantly probably remind themselves we're doing it because it's right in the eyes of the Lord and in the eyes of man. That man right now is the American people. We are tired of being stepped on. We are tired of being stolen from. We're tired of being told that our faith is wrong. Our opinions are wrong. They know better. They're in power. Shut up and sit down and we'll get to you when we get to you. And we're tired of it. They're acting like in 2 Corinthians 8:21. If you don't have a Bible, go get one. Download the Bible app and look through God's word because he gives us direction for everything in our life. And this is one that I found applied here in particularly to DOGE more than anything. They're taking pains to do what is right. Elon Musk has sacrificed a life of comfort for the life of retaliation and being slandered across every media outlet and everything. Why? Because he's doing what's right. The next verse I want to leave you with is Proverbs 10:9. Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes the crooked path will be found out. Guys, if there's not, this verse right now, oh gosh, it is the American verse right now. Because Trump and his administration have been set on a path to discover what integrity means for our country and why it's so important to bring it back, whether it's our financial integrity with what we support, our faithful integrity, just the integrity to be able to stand in front of the American people with respect and tell, hey, we're going to do the job that has to get done because it has to get done. But the most important about that verse is the last part. Crooked paths will be found out. That is my prayer every single day right now, that everybody who has been involved in all these crooked paths in our government be found out, whether it's Dr. Fauci, whether it's the last administration, which I think not only in his administration of selected or elected officials, but also his own family has done so many things that corrupted the American way and the view of what an American is, and have slandered our names. Our good names were slandered by administrations in the past. And my prayer is that they get found out. Now that as we try to drag our American way back onto the right path, and as we try to, in my opinion, put God at the helm and say, hey, we're a country that was created at the inception with opening meetings at the beginning of the founding fathers. They opened it with prayer to our God for them to be led to be a great nation and to change the world. And like that, we have. From ending slavery to putting people on the moon to everything that we do, we take steps and strides to make it a country that our God can be proud of. Let's not let anybody steal that from us. And I think we were dangerously close, but I think we're making huge steps to get back to what our country was intended to be. My final thought today is this. Whether you walk in the faith that I agree with or you walk in the faith that's not the same one that I worship, I don't care. Protect your faith. Make sure that the government knows that there's certain things that aren't for sale and they're not to be trampled on. Appreciate your faith and the people that are faithful around you. Now, if you're in my particular faith, I encourage you, read the word. Pray to your God. Attend church. Let the U.S. government know that, yes, we're going to be great Americans because we love our country. But first and foremost in my life, I'm a Christian. I follow God. I'm a family man. I respect and I love my family more than anything, but I'm an American. Those three things are the most important things to me. So I encourage you today to do something maybe different. If it's different for you, read the word, share the word of God, and make sure that our country and every effort and everything that we're taking is an effort of transparency and an effort that we protect those among us. And lastly, like I always do, if you've elected somebody who doesn't represent you, whether it be your faith, whether it be your financial, that you want you want everything to come to light and they're fighting against it, then make your voices heard. And like I do, let's start together to create a movement that can change our country. Now the heads are doing it. The administration's doing it. It's up to you and me to make sure that those people that are trying to make differences are supported and they know that we have their backs. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, like the video, share the video to somebody, anybody. Comment if you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything like that. Love to hear them. Love to have that kind of conversation with you back and forth. And I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.